welcome to Ask You Shall Grow. This is episode 6 with Eske Ruijters, a health scientist and therapist.
Yeah.
And we will talk about the topic of weight today, which is a very complex topic, so we're just going to talk about it a bit because it's too much to dive deep into.
Yeah.
And there's so many elements, so we're just going to talk about really physical versus emotional weight and what that means and explore that. So Eske, so first of all, what is really physical weight and what is healthy physical weight in first place?
We talk about physical weight, I think we tend to think about the scale and the number on the scale, and actually, or BMI, for example.
Right.
But actually, what I know and what I see is that does not have anything to do with how healthy you are, because it's just a number and it reflects your weight. But if you grow your muscle, your weight also increases. So it's a very broad topic. Weight.
Yeah, and that's why it's so confusing. That's why I wanted to be clear on like what actually should we care about, because there's so many ways to measure stuff. I'm like, what is the right way or the best way to do that?
Yeah. I think when it comes to the question, are you healthy or not? If I describe it very technical, I use hard measurements like, for example, visceral fat. That's the fat around your organs.
How can you measure that?
They do have scales in gyms sometimes. And otherwise you need a machine that can measure visual fat, because that's the fat that's actually the most unhealthy. You don't want it, of course, in your body. For example, you have the visceral fat, or you can measure it with measuring actually how your body is functioning apart from your weight, because as I said before, weight does not tell you a lot. It's more about what's going on inside. And so, for example, you can measure your insulin or your glucose levels. That tells you something about, okay, how is your metabolism doing? Are you at risk, for example, for cardiovascular disease or for hormonal issues? And you have so it's in your arm, it's a round thing, and then you can see on the screen how your blood sugar is doing. And it tells you a lot about how your body is reacting to certain foods. And also, it gives you a good insight into your health.
Right, because the physical weight is always so individual.
It is really individual.
And that's what I find tricky about it. Because, for example, if you have a family who's all got diabetes and all overweight, how can you know what's healthy for you when they're saying to you, oh, you're too skinny, but actually you're pretty healthy weight.
Yeah.
Like, or the other way around.
And you can also be underweight and be unhealthy, or you have people who are very lean but have a lot of visceral fat, not skinny fat. And not only to talk about the technical side of it, I think it's also about how you feel. So do you wake up energized? Are your hormones balanced? Do you not have brain fog? How are you mentally doing? That's, I think, way more important in combination with some harsh tools to see, am I really healthy?
Right. That's a good way to measure it. So there's these tools that you mentioned. The visceral fat.
That's
it. What's it called, the machine, actually?
You can use a bioimpedance.
It's called a bioimpedance machine.
Yeah.
And that checks your visceral fat. And then you also then check your insulin, your hormones, your blood sugar.
Yeah.
And then you know, okay, this is healthy or not for your own body.
Well, at least that's the thing I do in my practice. So I do a combination of asking questions about health. So, and of course I know what's healthy and unhealthy. And in addition to that, I done tests.
That's the physical part.
Yeah, that's really the physical part.
And how can you, as a person, be like, I think I'm healthy? How do you measure that? Is it because you wake up energized most days? Is it because you, for example, have a different ratio between your hip and your belly, or you have a less belly fat? Then like, how do you know that? How do you use a measuring tape?
Yeah, you can measure indeed the ratio between your hip and your belly. I don't know out of my head what exactly the ratio should be. And indeed, if there's a lot of fat around your belly, that could be an indicator of being not that healthy.
Those are the ones that you can do yourself at home.
Yeah.
If you're like, I don't know if I'm healthy, don't think about it.
Yeah.
So that's all physical. What factors are there to that, actually? And then I want to talk about the emotional weight, because that's also really important.
Yeah.
So what factors are there that make you a certain physical weight that's healthy or not healthy, let's say? So let's say that you're not healthy. Let's say that you're overweight. What things contribute to that physically? It's
important to directly make the connection.
Okay, let's do that first, and then we can come back.
Yeah, with the emotional weight, because what people often tend to think is that people do not have the motivation to lose their weight. But I always see that there is an emotional factor or a chronic stress factor. It's actually the same beneath, because if there is an emotional factor, it changes your physiology. So it changes how your insulin and glucose, where we spoke about the tools before, they change. So your whole metabolism is changing when you deal with stressors in your body. So I think you cannot say, okay, this person is not motivated enough. Sometimes you need to work on on the emotional level as well to lose the emotional weight, but also the physical weight. It's super interconnected on a physiological level.
So it's almost like the emotions of putting weight on.
Yeah.
When can you put weight on or lose weight because
Yeah.
you're so stressed you lose weight?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah, it's one or the other. And it sounds really too easy for people, but I think it's too difficult to explain exactly how that works. But it's literally true that certain emotions or suppressed emotions produce chemicals and they affect how your body is functioning. So that's really how it works.
And I also remember you mentioning last time that you have like the best case, the worst case.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, let's say, when you were relaxed and you had 3 weeks holiday and you went to all these nice places and you ate healthily, but you also exercised, your body was a whole different thing compared to when you're stressed out all the time and working too much. And you see the difference. And so then it is very clear then to see, wait a minute, my weight fluctuates.
Yeah.
Obviously, but like this is clear to me that this is my weight when I'm stressed. And let's say you lose too much weight normally because you're so stressed.
Yeah.
Like, well, when I'm normally healthy, I haven't weighed, so there's a difference here.
It literally reflects indeed how you feel. I spoke about previously is that your body is working with you. So if you, for example, gain weight in a stressful period, it's because your body is protecting you. So again, your insulin, your glucose levels change. For example, if there are a few tigers come running now to us, your metabolism changes.
But it's like, oh my god, death.
Yeah, but if indeed, but if that's
and that's what your body might be doing
on a lower level and on a prolonged period of time, it's actually protecting you. Like, okay, let's hold on to everything because if there's a bigger stressor, then we
need this weight.
We have the energy. Yeah.
We need to hold on to it so we don't not have food and
we can survive.
Yeah. That makes sense in a very weird way.
Yeah, but that's how it works. Yeah.
What other factors affect weight in general, just to know? Like what things you mentioned, glucose levels, insulin, what other things as a woman especially what affects our weight?
Yeah, of course we have our menstrual cycle. So it is really normal to fluctuate in how you look. So over the month you change as a woman already in weight. So that's completely normal. And then towards your life, if we get older, our hormones change as well. So if we go into perimenopause, menopause, we lose somewhat our estrogen and progesterone, and they also keep up the metabolism. So that's why a lot of women who get a little bit older, they think, okay, when I was 25, I could eat whatever I want. And now when I get older, I need to be very aware of what I eat and do my workouts. That's because hormone levels change all the time, and it's also normal that your body changes with that.
And that's why I was like curious about how that works. So hormones is a huge factor and fluctuates per month, right?
Yeah.
Or per period in the month.
Yeah. So you have a 4 week of from your menstruation to your next menstruation, and it fluctuates throughout those 4 weeks.
And during the menstrual cycle, that's when you most hold on to weight. It goes less in the middle.
Yeah.
Ovulating, and then
towards your ovulation, you're just to be less bloated, help less fluid. It goes back again. Yeah.
Interesting. And your weight will fluctuate, of course, because of that. Yeah. What age is it that it starts to shift? So you say, let's say, what age do you become a woman technically in terms of our body? So when you're younger, you're a girl, you still have different hormones as a child. Right? As a child. What period are you like, okay, now you've got hormones of a woman starting to become an adult woman, or you are an adult woman?
I would say hormonal-wise, first time women menstruate, that fluctuates from women being 9 to being 16.
So that's about the period where it could start.
Where it could start, yeah. I don't say that it's normal to start, for example, when you're 9, but
it can.
It can be. So it differs per woman when your hormonal cycle is fully grown in that sense, because it needs to learn.
So it takes
time. Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, like a machine. Yeah, to understand what it needs to do. So it differs for women when it's settled. But I would say around 18, 20.
That's the period of, and now settled, so to speak.
Should be. Yeah.
It's not that fixed. Again, some people don't have periods very often. I have friends who had to take, I don't know, medication because they didn't have a period for months. And that was actually their body. Yeah. We were like 16, 17. Yeah. So it doesn't have a fixed thing. So it's very different for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. But this is sort of the standard, right?
Yeah, I think what isn't different for anybody is that when you get older, your hormones change. So your body changes because your hormones affect your metabolism.
And what age does that begin to change?
It differs, again, per woman. So I think the biggest shift you will see is around 40, 45. Because going into perimenopause, menopause.
Then it's a big shift.
Yeah, then
that's when women are like, oh no, but I used to eat everything.
Yeah.
But it's good to know our bodies change and we're not fixed like that. Often I hear this idea of like calories in, calories out about weight, and I think it's not so simple.
it's really not that simple. No.
And so you have to have
No.
other things you include.
Yeah, I think we're way too fixed on the calories. And sometimes it's good to know, but for example, I do have clients who eat like 1,500 calories a day, but they're still overweight. So then you think, oh, but 1,500 is
Quite little.
quite little.
Should be tiny.
Yeah, so what's going on there? So then it's way more helpful to draw blood work and to see, okay, but what's going on with you? Or to have a conversation about what could be the reason that you're holding on to fatty tissue.
So we've talked about physical weight, emotional weight, and what tools would you suggest to try to move towards being healthy if you feel, let's say, you're underweight or overweight, or you're stressed out, or whatever's happening, you're like, I don't know, how do I change that? Obviously, seeing a therapist is a wonderful tool.
Yeah.
Or having someone to be accountable to.
Yeah.
Going to the doctor, maybe, whoever,
Yeah.
you can pay or go to that helps you like that. But are there any things that you think that exist online, any books, any podcasts, anything you think, oh, that's a really good way?
Yeah, I think apart from working on nutrition and working on physical activity,
because that we can we'll easily find it.
Yeah, you can find that. But I think it's also important to become aware of what you think about your body, because what you think reflects also on literally on your physical body.
Yeah.
So, for example, write down your thoughts or be aware of what do I think when I look into the mirror. And when you become aware, you can change your thoughts. So you can, if you, for example, write down, okay, I feel fat. Because I think a lot of women think when they look into the mirror, this is too fat or this is not good enough or whatever. Replace it with a thought like, I appreciate my body for what it is. And try to repeat it every day. So literally change your thoughts and implement new seeds so it can grow into a whole bunch of new thoughts and that changes your body.
And it does change the physiology a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think people are aware of it. Yeah, they underestimate it. Yeah.
I read this thing about how what you do in private shows in public. And I think that also applies to the body. That if you're telling yourself, because when I was younger, I had this struggle, and we can talk about that too a little bit. About the cultural beauty standards, because that affects weight a lot. I remember feeling a bit like, what should my body look like? Because I don't know what is healthy, actually. And I felt very much that people would compare me and every other person, and that happened to women a lot, not just me. And I really didn't like it. But I also didn't know how to say what was healthy for me, because I didn't have that around me, and most of my dad's family are in Biddle. And they're the people I looked like. So I couldn't say, look, that's how I should look. Because I was like, oh, I don't know how I should look. Because the beauty standards around me were like British women, and at home when I was with other South American people, which is who I grew up a lot around, they would speak about, women are beautiful or healthy when they're curvy. And I was like, but that's not how I look, because I'm like 15. And like, what does that even mean? And my friends at school were like from Africa or Jamaica or like from Asia, and they were really curvy. And I was like, wow, they look like full-grown women's bodies. Like, wow, where do I fit in with this like ideal? Like, and how do I know what I should look like for myself to know, not for just people's opinion? Because I didn't ever like that actually. But like, what is actually healthy in terms of the way we view ourselves, in our weight and in our beauty, and how do we accept that, and how do we do that? Because that's something very confusing. Because I grew up in such a cultural background.
I find it a difficult question as well.
Right, and it's something to just discuss, because it's not obviously professional.
Because I think there are a lot of different body types. I don't think that difference in body type reflects the health, but I think there are just general markers where you can say, okay, this is healthy.
Because that's my body type.
Yeah, that's
so I should look like that, because that's how I look.
Yeah, but in general, just to see, just to see, okay, what is healthy, and that I think come down to the things I talked about before. If you feel healthy in combination with tests they come out saying you're doing well, that could be a good marker, a good measure of feeling healthy or being healthy. And I think it also is about knowledge and education on, indeed, what is actually a healthy body. How are we functioning as human beings and as women, taking into account the whole hormonal.
That was skipped a lot. I've noticed that now. Now I think like, oh, okay. But what I found useful for myself personally was to find out body types, because I didn't know what that was. So I then thought, oh, if this is like, for example, in my case, I have like what you call like a rectangular athletic body type. So I'm not really an hourglass girl. So I would never have looked like my friends at school or people that like that. And so that was the norm. Sometimes I thought I had to live up to. But that's not my body. Even if I like am fit as hell, I don't look more like I go running on track and field.
Yeah.
Like that's my body
Yeah,
type.
yeah.
I don't look like
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So now that I don't have that standard, and I also started measuring my waist and my body to see how it fluctuated.
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot because I realized like,
measurements.
as long as I don't have a lot of fat on my stomach, then I probably won't have cardiovascular problems, and that matters to me a lot. So I started to look at it as like a health thing more than per se judging my body like.
I think that's a good way to approach it. Yeah.
But that took a lot of time to figure out because, like I said, these beauty standards that we get pressured into. Like, for example, I think we were talking about this before. You had Marilyn Monroe in the 1950s was like the beauty item, and she would now be called overweight because she had too much fat or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was perfect then. Everyone loved that. They thought she was really good looking.
Yeah.
And then we shifted to the whole 90s heroin chic where you wouldn't feel like hit moss, like you look like you're a bit hungry.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the norm. And when what's in fashion is often not that healthy.
No.
Not that it's bad. I mean, if that's your body, that's your body. But people want to fit into that box, and that for me is where I think I realize that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because we are ourselves. And we can't be another beauty standard. We can tweak what we have, like do nice treatments or go to the spa or go to the gym and things where we improve who we are physically. Yeah. But like to live up to a standard that isn't us, it's not the
For example, speaking about Marilyn Monroe or Kate Moss, I just would be curious as a scientist and therapist, how would their blood work be and how do they experience any problem? Because if Marilyn Monroe would feel completely fine and her measurements would be completely fine in terms of healthy, unhealthy. So that's more the scientific part. Same with Kate Moss. If she would feel completely fine and her blood work was all within the range, then it's perfectly fine for both of their body types. So it's not about what we spoke about, not only about looks. It is indeed about
how you feel. Is your body working well?
Yeah,
do you feel good in the morning?
Yeah.
How are you fresh? Like, I started to notice there's a difference. It's really interesting.
Maybe they felt amazing.
Maybe they didn't. Who knows what they felt?
Yeah.
Sometimes you look great and feel terrible. And thank you, Eske, for being on the episode. It's been lovely to have you again.
Thank you.